Hello and welcome back to Overbooked. I'm Amanda and today we're going to be doing my February wrap up. So we're a little late to this. I have a lot of things going on in my life. So my booktube videos may be coming very sporadically, very slowly, but I am still here. I'm still trying to make content. So hopefully you will still be seeing me. It will just be very slow coming. So bear in mind. I do have a lot of content ideas, but I'm hoping to get to a lot of them this summer. I'll be done moving and I'll be done with my class. Fingers crossed. Without further ado though, let's get into the books that I read in February. So we'll start with Breaking Down the Duke by Evie Dunn Moore. And I had this on my hold list from Libby for like a couple months, and I had really wanted to read like a romance Regency novel, kind of like I wanted to read something like Bridgerton, but not Bridgerton. So I was really excited when this came up, and I enjoyed it for the most part. So Bringing Down the Duke follows our main character, whose name is escaping me, and she gets accepted into college, and she convinces her like cousin, who is like her guardian, because she's a female and needs a male guardian, that she can go to college, and she joins this like women's movement there, and it turns into her like meeting this Duke guy and them having like kind of like a tension relationship, but they like kind of like each other, and then obviously it turns into a romance. So it was fun. It was really like a fun, lighthearted book, and I enjoyed reading it. The only thing that I didn't like about this book was like the abruptness of it. Like in the beginning, we're introduced to the character, you know, she's at her cousin's house or whatever, and it's talked about how like she got accepted to this college, she's gonna go, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, the next chapter, she's at the college and she's in a women's movement. I didn't really see like, I wish there was more of a bridge. Like I wish we would have seen like how she got introduced to this women's movement, how like she joined this club, like what her pull was to it. I mean, we really never really got like why she went out of her way to join this organization. Like it just kind of was like thrown in there, just really random to me. So I really wish there was just more detail on that. Other than that though, like I said, it was fun, it was light, I enjoyed. The next one I read was Rust and Stardust by T. Greenwood. And this is actually based on a true story that I knew nothing about. This is like a true crime, fictional, I guess, thriller. It's about Sally, I forgot her last name, but a girl named Sally is kidnapped at age 11, and essentially like, I wonder if you guys can hear the sirens in the background. If you can't, I'm sorry. The police heard about the kidnapping. They're on the case. So Sally lives in this like small town, like the East Coast. I can't remember exactly where. She wants to fit in with these girls at her school. And so one of their like things that they make her do is like to go shoplifting at the store. And she attempts to shoplift something and gets caught by who she thinks is a police officer, but is really an actual criminal. And he stops her, tells her that if she doesn't do what he tells her to do, or doesn't listen to him, that she's gonna pay big, she's gonna go to jail, it's gonna be terrible. So of course she's like 11, so she believes everything this man says and is terrified. He tells her that he has to take her somewhere to go to court, and then he can't tell her mom because it might like ruin her or something. I can't remember what his excuse was. So essentially she lies and says that this guy is her friend's dad, and that she's gonna go on like this, you know, week-long vacation at the beach with them. And her mom's happy, like let her daughter go, and like walks her to this train station and hands her over to this man. And this starts this like 2-year, I think it's 2 years, abduction of this girl. And so the book follows her journey of her like, you know, being kidnapped and all the different places that they go, trying to evade the cops and to get caught. And then you also follow like her family and them trying to figure out what happened to her and what's going on and where she is. And it was I really love this book. I listened to an audio. I thought it was intriguing. I thought it dragged a little bit, but not too much. I mean, I thought it was just I thought it was really good and I enjoyed it. So definitely kept me on the edge of my seat, and I would recommend. The next one I read was The Mercies by Karen Millwood Hargrave. I can't read my handwriting, you guys. Hargrave. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever. You'll see it. I'll put a picture here. I read The Mercies with my friend Rachel. It was one of our buddy reads that we did, and I'm so glad we read this book. It was so good. The Mercies follows two women in particular, and I think they're in Norway / Finland. I'm not quite sure. I think they were mainly in Norway. I don't know. And it centers on this like village that where a group of men went out to go fishing or whatever. It's like the whole village, like every man in this village is on this boat, and they go out, and then there's a huge storm, and it essentially kills all of the men. And so there's only these women left in the village, and this, I can't remember what the term is for. I'll call him a mayor. They send like this mayor in and to like help, run this village because clearly these women can't do it for themselves. This also takes place in like the late 1600s. With this mayor, again, not a correct term, he brings a wife who is our other main character, and she's like from like an affluent family, and she's used to like having things done for her, and she lost her mother at a young age. She's leaving behind a sister, her dad, to come to this new place with her new husband. And, it's definitely just out of not what she's used to. She's not used to like, making her own food, cleaning her own place. So her and this other main character connect and like, help each other through this time. And then there's also just, I'm doing terrible at describing this book. And then with all these women and then like just at this village by themselves, there's also rumors of like witches among them. Which I would say does not happen until there's like the disruption of men. But whatever, these men in charge who end up like looking over this village think that there are witches among these women and that they need to be expelled. And so it becomes a kind of like a witch hunt. And I just thought this book was so good, so well done. I think it has a really good way of like writing where it's not like in your face, like, what they're doing. Like it's not graphic, but like, what's happening, and it just makes it even more eerie. And like, I don't know, not hard to read, but you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's what's going on. It's a really interesting read because the author doesn't like spell it out for you, but what's going on. And I don't know if that was just because like, I think Rachel and I talked about this, like it's just because we were women, so we understand what's happening, or if she just did a really good job of conveying between the lines. But yeah, I definitely recommend The Mercies. I thought it was amazing. The next book I read was Libertie by Caitlin Greenwich. This is another historical fiction book that I read on audio, and this takes place like pre-Civil War, during Civil War, kind of after Civil War, and we're in like, I think like Boston area, where we see like our main character and her mom are two Black women, and her mom is a Black physician. She's a doctor, and that's like obviously very rare, I think, for that time. And our main character like grows up, in her mother's shadow, like watching her be a doctor, kind of assisting her, whatever. And then her mother also helps with what I think what we're believed to be like to think is the Underground Railroad. Libertie, who is our main character that just connected with me, during this time she is, just kind of her mom's like right-hand man, essentially. Like she's helping her in the hospital, she's doing all these things, and eventually gets into like a college to become a doctor, which we later know, and I think we always kind of have the idea throughout the book, is like she doesn't really want to be a doctor, she's not interested in it. And she ends up coming home after a semester of school and meets a man and marries him and moves with him to his homeland of Haiti. And so we follow this journey of Libertie growing up in Boston, being this person, I think that's always kind of in her mother's shadow, and then moving to Haiti, and I think almost being in her husband's shadow in another place. Like she's never really like I don't think she's ever really in her own light. And we just got to see her like and how she develops as a character and handles everything that's going on around her. I didn't really super enjoy this book. I think it might be a better book to read physically than to listen to on audio. I thought it was very slow moving. I also didn't really understand a lot of the points of contention. There's like a big part of the book where like Libertie and her mom have like a fight and like, you know, like they're just really, her mom's really upset with her for marrying somebody and moving away. And I just didn't really grasp the whole point of that contention. I just didn't really understand why she was so upset. I didn't really get it. Like she was just so angry, and I just didn't really understand. And I think I might have either missed something or it just wasn't clear to me. I think I gave this like 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was pretty well written. Like I thought it was like beautiful writing. I just didn't really enjoy the story as much as I think I saw other people did. So, but I definitely recommend if you like historical fiction and you're interested in that time period. The next book I read was The Trouble with Hating You by Sneej Patel. And I read this for the Gloss Book Club, which I am like not doing great at participating in. Like I have not made it to the meetings and I'm trying to keep up with the books, but whatever. I kept up with the book this time, but I didn't make it to the meeting. Yikes. Anyways, The Trouble with Hating You is a romance novel where we have our main character who, how do I want to describe this? I didn't really know how to like just describe romance novels. I mean, like there's 2 characters, they meet, they fall in love. I don't know. How do I want to say that? So we have a female love interest and a male love interest. And our female, they both meet because, so they're both Indian American and both their parents are kind of working on setting up an arranged marriage for them, especially the female love interest. The female love interest goes to a dinner with her family and she thinks it's just gonna be her mom and her dad. And it ends up being a meeting with the male love interest and his mom. And it's supposed to be this like dinner where they meet and they, you know, get arranged to be together. And she does not want to be at this dinner. She's not looking for marriage. She's not interested. And so she ends up running out on the dinner. And then like while she's running out of the house, she like runs straight into the male love interest. And they kind of have like a little like fight kind of, and then like move on. And then after that, they like see each other throughout the book. They keep just running into each other. They run each other at like, I can't remember what their word for church is, but their church and then like their work, they end up being like kind of not co-workers, but he has to like work on something at her work because he's a lawyer. So he's brought in to work on a case that's like involves her work. And then like they just run into each other like so many places. And they're always like bickering and fighting, and they always like are telling, like they always think that they hate that person, but you know, in reality, there's like an undertone of like love there. And the book is like just following them in that like love-hate relationship. This book tackles a lot of things, I think. So there's a lot of sexual harassment, rape, and, you know, not believing the victim, powerful people getting away with things that they shouldn't be, are tackled, which I think they did pretty well in the book. So I don't have any complaints about that. I usually find it kind of hard to take those topics seriously, like in a romance novel, but I think that this book did pretty well with that. There was another romance novel that I didn't really enjoy how they tried to tackle it. I don't remember what it was, but this one I thought did a pretty good job. It does a pretty good job at like trigger warning you in the beginning and all of that stuff. So that was good. The thing that I just didn't like about it, it just seemed like too, I don't know, because it is a romance novel. I don't want to say too cliche because I guess like they're all like that, but like I just didn't understand. I didn't understand how like these 2 people didn't know each other, but then all of a sudden after this dinner, they like ran into each other everywhere. I'm like, how did you not know? Like, they know everybody in their community. Like, they know, like, they have like such a close knit, like, community that they have. And I was like, how did you not know of each other before this? Like, it just kind of like didn't seem real. Like, now I'm running into him everywhere. I'm like, how are you not running into him everywhere before? I just didn't really understand that flip of the switch, I guess. So that was kind of like far-fetched to me, but whatever. Otherwise, I enjoyed it for the most part, and I don't know, I'd recommend. Okay, so the next book I read was The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris, and I hands down love this book. This was such a good book. So this is a historical fiction novel. I've read a lot of historical fiction this month, and this takes place in Virginia? I don't know. I think it's Virginia. Yeah. And this follows a lot of characters, but it centers on a family, one family in particular, and they have like this like farm in Virginia, in this like small town. In the beginning, we see like the father and the mother of this family, and their son has went off to the Civil War, and they have not heard of him coming back or if he's gonna make it back. And so the father, like out of his like kind of like sadness and grief, decides that he wants to start farming his farm again, which he has not done. He wants to, you know, make something of his land. And so he goes out to look for some help, and he stumbles upon these two brothers who are two freed black men, because this is right after the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, decides to offer them the opportunity to work on his farm. And they end up accepting after, you know, some back and forth, and he welcomes them. They live in his barn, and he gives them pay that he would have given anybody, you know, even like a white man, to do the same job. This starts to like cause up a lot of hatred and like tension in this like small town, because a lot of men who are coming back from the Civil War are not finding jobs or work and are just kind of like on the streets, white men, and are kind of like really upset that like these two black men have a job and are making more money than they do. And like, it just turns into this like really like this town versus this man because of what he's doing. And then there's also a lot of other hidden secrets throughout the book that are really interesting. Like all of the characters kind of have something that they're like hiding from everybody. And at one point, somebody's secret really bubbles up and causes a huge storm and has huge repercussions for the rest of the novel that I just thought was like just really, really fascinating and interesting to watch unfold. And I just really love this book. It was so good. And if you're gonna read this book and you like audiobooks, I would highly recommend the audiobook. It was so well done. Whoever narrated this was so good. And like the different voices that they did, because there's only one person, was just so good. And it just even got me more into the book. And I just really can't recommend this book enough. I thought it was very, very good. The last book I read was A Little Devil in America, Notes and Praise of Black Performance by Hanef Aberquib. And I read this for the Stacks Book Club. This was their pick for December. And this was like a nonfiction, kind of like, almost like a collection of essays, sort of, and just like about, you know, Black performers and Black excellence and Black influence in the performance industry. And it was actually just really, really well. This was like such an amazing book. Like, hands down, so good. Like probably one of the best books I've read so far this year. The author, Hanef Aberquib, I'm not pronouncing his name right, but he is actually like a poet, and you can just tell, like when you're reading, I just love when poets like write novels or some like books for us, because their writing is just so like lyrical and just so easy and like effortless to read. Like it's just so beautiful. I love it. And you can just tell, like, you know, he's a poet like when you're reading it, and it's just so good. It's so amazing. And there's just a lot of interesting facts. Like the first like kind of like essay, I guess I'd say, or chapter is about like these dance marathons that would happen like right during the Great Depression. And like it'd be like these people who like you would have to dance as long as you could and like to win a cash prize. And they're really popular during the Great Depression just because no one had any money, and they would essentially do anything to try to get money. And even though these were mainly dominated by white people, there was like a Black population that were doing something similar but not trying to like kill themselves doing it. And it was just an interesting parallel to see, and it was just like really interesting facts of information that I never really knew about. I think there was a really popular essay that I've heard a lot of people talk about, how like Whitney Houston is like not a great dancer, and he goes into that. There's a chapter about like Michael Jackson. There's like a lot of interesting tidbits and connections that I think people would really like, you know, take, like it would just really sink in for a lot of people. I just thought it was really informative and insightful. So I definitely recommend. I think this is one of like the best books I've read, like I said, this year, and I think will probably be one of the best books I've read for the entire year this year, after all's said and done. Okay, so those were the books that I read in February. I hope that you enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, please let me know in the comments down below. And please in the comments down below, let me know what you've been reading. What were some of your favorite books that you read in February? I'd love to hear from you. And as always, please hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. And I will see you guys next time.